Next item, we're going to create an output groups for the floors. So let's see what that has to say. Flip it back over here. We're going to create some output groups for the floors. It's the speaker with the 2 blue arrows. When I click on the speaker with the 2 blue arrows, we see we have some default output groups that are built into the system. Now, what I'm going to do is I like to keep things in numeric order. So I'm going to add an output group, not as group number 2. I'm going to add it as 11, 12, and 13. 11 will be my first floor. 12 will be my second floor. 13 will be my third floor. So I just right click in the big open area. I'll add an output group. First thing I'm going to do is the used for. We did an audio before. What I'm going to do is click on that and make it an audio. I'll change the group number to 11, and I'm going to call this as floor 1 audio. Okay, when I say okay, I want to explain what we're going to do here. Now, in our system, and you can't see it just as it is now, but in our system, I have 6 smoke detectors. I restate that. I have 9 smoke detectors, and I have 6 pull stations. There are 2 pull stations and 3 smoke detectors on each floor. We're going into selective signaling. So based on the zones we set up, zone 1 is floor 1, zone 2 is floor 2, and zone 3 is floor 3. Now, we look at this from the perspective of the amplifier, and we're talking about first floor audio. When we talked about selective signaling, we would do floor of the incident, floor above the incident, and floor below it. So if we were sitting on the first floor looking at the amplifier, we're going to look at it and make it activate based on a zone range. On the zone range, do I want the first floor amplifier to make a noise if zone 1, which is a first floor device, goes active? And I would say the answer is yes. Do I want it to go if a zone 2 or a second floor device goes into alarm? And I would think yes, because that's the floor above the incident. But what about floor 3? Pause for a moment and think about that. I'm going to say probably not, because that's 2 floors above the incident. So what we'll do is we'll just make it a 2. So any first floor alarm or second floor alarm will make that amplifier turn on. And we'll say okay. Notice how it's gray, and it's gray because we haven't applied it to an amplifier or to do work. So now what we'll do is we'll create our second floor audio. Again, I'll just right click in the big open area. I'll add an output group. This one will be 12. I'll change it from standard to audio. This will be floor 2 alarm. Audio. And say okay. Now think about this again as a zone range. Now we're on floor 2. If an alarm occurs on the first floor, do we want that amplifier to make a noise? I think so. That's the one below the incident. How about the second floor? Well, that is the floor of the incident. And how about the third floor? I would say yes, we would want the third floor to also activate. So we'll do a zone range for either the first, the second, or the third. So anything that comes up on that, and say okay. So now we have a second alarm for the second output group. And finally, we'll do is the third floor. This one, again, we did the 13. We'll change it to an audio output. And it'll be floor 3, audio. Now on this one, we drew a pattern a little bit before. We said from 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and now we're on the first, so we're standing on the third floor and we're looking at our amplifier. Do you want that to activate if we have a first floor alarm? Thinking at that point, now we're 2 floors below the incident. So I would say probably not. So we'd want to say, no, we don't want to start on the first floor. We want to move it to the second floor. Okay, now if you have a third floor, obviously, yep, that would make it work. Do we have a fourth floor? We do not. So we're not going to go any higher than the third floor, which would be zones 2 and 3. Okay, so now we have our group set up. What's nice about this is that you don't have to put any specific smoke detectors, heat detectors, pull stations in each of these groups. All you have to do is apply the individual pull stations, smoke detectors, heat detectors to the floor that they're on, the zone that is associated with the floor. And what else you can do is I don't have to do just a single zone. What if this building was a multi-purpose building? Second and third floor is office space. First floor has 4 or 5 different residential spaces. I could have broken it up and said, hey, zones 1 to 10 are the first floor, 11 to 20 are the second floor, 21 to 30 are the third floor. And I could have written the zone ranges that way. I don't have to use all of the zones, but I could have written the zone ranges that way. That way there, if I had a UPS drop box location in one location on the first floor, I could give that a specific label. And if I had the deli in a different zone on the first floor, that could be zone 2. It's still within the zone range, so it still work. Okay, so let's take a flip back over and see what the next thing was that it wanted me to do. The next thing says is I need to alter the amplifier type for each. I need to make 1 for the mic bus amplifier, and I need to give 3 for the floors, the area amplifiers. And we also need to designate the area that they are assigned to. All right, our groups are all written, and our peripheral bus is where our amplifiers resided. So all I need to do now is highlight an amplifier, click on the magnifying glass, because this is the add remove screen. Click on the amplifier to show us the details. You can see there's parts of the switches, and here are our amplifiers here. So just to quickly explain what this is, you notice that I have a 149.0, a 149.1, and a 149.2. Now recall I said that the amplifier monitors its power supply. This is what the 149.0 is. This is the monitor point for the power supply. And lo and behold, the .1 and the .2, that is your amplifier speaker 1 and amplifier speaker 2. Whatever 1 does, 2 does. Whatever 2 does, 1 does. They duplicate each other. So in this case, let's just right-click, highlight this 149.1. I can right-click and do a quick edit. And over here, I can see that I have some options that I can make some changes to. I'll come back to that in a moment. I want to come to the lower left corner down here. Notice down here talks about the point details. It says used for, and we said that we were going to set 1 for mic bus, 3 for floor. I'll go back over. I click where it says floor amp. Notice that I have floor amp, mic bus amp, and remote mic. I'll click on mic bus amp. There's nothing else that we have to do to the 149 card. All the work has been done for that one. It's a mic bus amplifier now. Then we have first floor, second floor, and third floor. So we'll set this up for a floor amp on the first floor. Area 1. I don't have to do the second one because whatever happens to the .1 does the same thing to .2. I'll go to the 151, which will be the second floor amp. We'll make that a area 2. And we'll do the same thing for the third one and make that area 3 or the third floor. Okay, so now we've taken care of adding 1 mic bus, 3 for the floor areas, and designating the areas that it belongs to. Okay, now let's see what the next thing is that it wants us to do. Now we have to apply the output groups to each of the floors, the area amplifiers. Okay, and we'll come back over here. Now what we can do is, I showed you this earlier, right-click anywhere, do the quick edit. We have 5 columns: address, location, text, zone that it belongs to, output group, and disable group. We don't need to worry about this one where it says undefined up here. This is the mic bus. It forgets what it's going to do here. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at, here's our area 1 amplifier. So our area 1 amplifier was the first floor. When we wrote our output groups up here underneath the speaker with the 2 blue arrows, we wrote output group number 11, correct? If I'm not sure, if I type in 11 and I click off, oh yes, that was correct. There's my label that I wrote down so I can follow it through. And then of course it'll be 12 for the second floor. Remember, whatever happens to 1 happens to 2. Whatever happens to 1 happens to 2. And of course the last one would be 13. Okay, so now we've applied the output group that's going to control the amplifier. And we'll just simply close the screen. I'll toggle myself back over. We did the output groups.